and welcome to Coffee with Phil, where our goal is to help you live a life of purpose on purpose. We believe that we each become wiser through the people we meet and the stories we hear. So today, we want to connect you with someone new. To help you find the wisdom in today's story, here's your podcast host, Phil Strong.
Well, g'day and welcome. Welcome to Coffee with Phil. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm glad you joined me for Coffee Online. Not sure what kind of coffee you're drinking today, but I hope it's a good one. Look, I'm really enjoying getting these episodes out to you. I've got other episodes planned with interviews, guests that I'm trying to connect with, and to be honest with you, technology that I'm still learning and still trying to get the best out of. So that's what I'm working on at my end. But today I want to have a chat to you about something called the power of team. I had a book launched late last year called Building a Strong Family. Prior to that, in 2014, I launched my previous book called Kids and Money. And in both those instances, for both those projects, I was really proud of the end result that my team produced. Look, I can write a book, I can get a thought on paper or on the screen as it were, through the keyboard, but it takes a team to get a book published in a really, really professional way. And I want to talk to you today about how we can achieve more by using people and their expertise. What would you be wanting to get out of today? Well, what I'm hoping for you, the real takeaway and the benefit that I'm stirring you and challenging you to think about is the question that I pose here. What could you build with the help of other people? Look, I'm sure you're carrying something. I'm sure you've got some great ideas, but the question is, what can you build with the help of other people? So why don't you sit back, enjoy this, and listen to the keys that I'm going to share with you and watch out for something special at the end. Let's get going. Well, welcome to the podcast. Today's topic, the power of team. I'm excited to share some stories with you from my journey, and I'm really hoping that you get some key things to take away from this for your personal situation. It's one thing to go, oh, nice job, Phil. I can see how that works for you. But it's totally another thing to be able to internalize it, to personalize it, and then apply it to your own situation. And that's truly my goal in sharing my stories and the stories of others, is that you would truly be able to apply some of these principles to your own life for your own success so that you can live a life of purpose on purpose. So I want to talk to you today in the context of the power of team with an example in my life of the books that I've recently published. As I said in the introduction, in 2019, I launched Building a Strong Family. It's a book that is 10 years in the making, as you'll hear about today. It's the culmination of a bunch of people's effort, and you'll hear about that today. In 2013, I wrote a book called Kids and Money, which was published and released in 2014. And that's essentially where I started trialing these principles I'm sharing with you and am continuing to refine them as I move forward. So what are the players? In the role of publishing a book, if you've never written or published a book for yourself, then there's something to understand a little bit about what goes on. Obviously, you need a good idea. You need a mission or a message that you're trying to convey, and you need to think about how you're going to do that. So that's the context for me and what I write. I write books on money, I write books on family, and I write books on faith. And so what I'm trying to do is achieve my mission by getting my message out there. I have other friends who have written novels, fables, stories of principle. And so in those contexts, we've got a message or a narrative that we're trying to convey. And ultimately, the role of the author is to be the project manager that holds the vision, that brings the big picture together and the details that make up the story or the narrative. So you can apply this across the board. So I play the role of the author, the project owner, and the visionary, and I have a mission that I'm trying to achieve. And look, I love writing. I've written for years. I've written for newspapers. I've written for magazines. I've written for blogs. I've written books. And I love writing. I love the crafting of a message for communicating something to people. But in addition to that, you've got to have someone that can make sure the message makes sense. Often, I would write for the newspaper and my editor would say to me, well, that just sounds a little bit of a dribble. And I'd be like, what do you mean? I'm trying to get my thoughts across here. And he would go, well, actually, it just sounds like a bunch of trash. Let's try and find what you want to say. And so what I'm saying is, it's one thing to write. It's another thing to write effectively for the reader. And that's where we need other people's help. So look, I'm just going to rattle off a list of functions that are involved in the book process, and then I'm going to talk about people. So we've got the person that's doing the planning and the structure, and usually that would be the author, but sometimes it pays to get help in that area. You've obviously got to do writing. I prefer to write my own content, but I know others that use a ghost writer. So that's someone that will conduct interviews, that will speak through conversation, and they will take someone's thoughts and they will write them in a way that it sounds like that person. So, for instance, those people that really feel they've got a life story that's worth sharing but don't know how to write, one of the effective ways for you to get your message out to achieve your mission is to hire a ghostwriter, someone that is especially skilled in writing your story for you. And that's something that's really important. Then we have the necessity for readability. And so look, I read a lot of books, and I can tell you when I'm reading a book that has not had a professional editor go through the manuscript. I can tell because of the structure and the disjointedness. I can tell because of the spelling mistakes, the grammar mistakes. I can tell because there's no flow. And that's what an editor provides. They're qualified, they're experienced, they're outside of the emotion, and they also can bring their professional edge to make sure the mission is completed. They're 100% accountable to the vision holder. They're 100% accountable to the editor, but they bring the expertise. The other person that's involved in the book process is someone that we call a proofreader. They're not an editor. They don't carry the function of form and sentence and flow, but they're looking for mistakes. They're looking for typos. They're looking for something that doesn't quite carry on the page properly. They're looking for sentence structure. They're a proofreader, and they're very good at it. The other person that I love working with in this process is the graphic designer. A graphic designer is a creative. It's someone that can take a vision that's described in words and put it into imagery. They understand colors, they understand form, they understand layout. They understand the emotions behind the way that pictures can convey a message. And they're really, really good at making it work on their computer for print or Kindle. So a graphic designer is a key person. They're going to help you with the layout, the imagery, the logos. They're going to give you the title look, which you're going to need in other contexts. And they're going to give you even artwork for the middle. Like I appreciate people love to do their own art for their books, but you can kind of tell when old mate's just had a go at drawing his own pictures and he's not a professional artist. No disrespect if that's what you want to do, if you want to personalize your book. Because, I suppose it comes down to what you want for your book. Me, I've really tried hard in the last 10 years to craft this in a way that what I end up holding in my hand is as good as or better than what you would get from a major publishing house. In fact, I think mine's better because I invest in color, I invest in layout, I'm not worried about cheap product. Ultimately, I'm paying for it, but the truth is I'm proud of what I produce. So a graphic designer is key, and get them in early, and I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. And then finally, the book design, the layout, and the printing. You have to use it. Unless you've got a really good $45,000 printer in your garage, you are going to need a book printer to do that. You can get it done online. You can get them printed, through Amazon or Lulu or something like that. The honest truth is the quality is rubbish. It's cheap because it is cheap. And so depending, again, what your vision is will depend on where you go. So let me run through these from my experience, and I'm going to share a story for each of them because I want you to understand the importance of the power of team. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through that with you. Then I'm going to talk about excuses that appear as objections, and then I'm going to close it out with something special at the end. So let me dig into a bit more detail and tell you some stories. I remember when I did my first book, Becoming Money Wise. It was about 2008, I think it was. I'd been traveling the country, running seminars all over New Zealand about financial education, budgeting, paying off debt, helping people fix their financial crisis. I was having heaps of fun doing it. But I realized that I could only be in one place at one time. So the book gave me the ability to be in many places at the same time. And so I had a guy working for me, Josh, what a legend he is still today, good friend of mine. He and I sat down and we thought, we're going to do this book. And we gave it to a book shepherd, someone that would take all my recordings and effectively became a ghostwriter for me. She gave us the manuscript some months later and we read it and thought, that doesn't sound anything like Phil. So we literally said goodbye to our wives. We packed a bag. We went and hid in someone's house for 3 days and we rewrote the entire book in 3 days. And I was really proud of that result because we achieved making the book sound like me in a way that is easy to read. And even last month in 2020, so it's 12 years later, I had a friend send me a message saying, hey, look, I've finally read that book you gave me. It's brilliant. I love it. It's like you're sitting in the chair reading it to me. It's just such an easy read and it sounds like you are talking to me. And that's the highest compliment that I can have as a writer. But when it came to editing that book, man, oh man, we had some ding-dong fights. Me and the editor, the woman that was being my editor at that time, we had some stand-up matches. I remember driving to Auckland for a meeting one night. A friend of mine was driving the car, Kevin, and she's in the back seat, and her and I were sitting next to each other reviewing manuscript, and we were arguing over words. We were arguing over phrases. We were really wrestling. And if you know me, you know I don't mind confrontation. So this was not unhealthy. It wasn't disrespectful, but it was rigorous, it was robust, and we were passionate about getting the message as good as we could. And that's what an editor does for you. I remember with my last book, Building a Strong Family, my editor for that project was a woman who was based in Auckland. I've never ever met her. I was introduced to her by my good friends at bookprint.co.nz and we spoke on the phone. I sent her a submission. She read it and she said, I'd love to work on this project. Lovely woman, never met her in my life. But a couple of times we used Dropbox Paper for this last project. So it's an online cloud-based tool and we would make a lot of notes in the sidelines around editing. And we'd have some arguments. She'd be like, I don't even know you've got a ground to stand on to make that statement. Or this just sounds too simple. Or a couple of times she'd say to me, this is confusing. You need to rewrite this. And then she would make some suggestions. So look, it's confronting to work with an editor, but it should be, because a passionate, committed, professional editor is going to help you to get a better product. And I want to reinforce that as best I can. When it comes to graphic design, I love the creative side of it. I've got my ideas, but I'm not able to translate that into the design project in a professional way. But a couple of examples. I remember with Kids and Money, the book that I released in 2014. I hired a graphic designer who was referred to me by a friend. I checked out a lot of her work and I was like, hey, I reckon we could work together. What do you think? And she said, I'd love to. Let's meet. So I met her in the McCafe in Green Lane in Auckland. And never met her before, but we rock up there and I'm like, yep, I've seen her photo. So we have a chat, we have a yarn. She gets on board with the idea of the project and what I wanted to achieve with that book. That was a different book. There was 2 authors involved. We had 2 different voices. We wanted to make it simple for the reader to follow with the layout. And it's quite unique. You'll have to read the book. I'm not going to tell you everything. But I remember we went next door. And we went to the parenting place, which I know the people that were running it at the time, and they have a bookstore there. I said, let's get in here and let's just pull books out. And so we sat in their bookstore and we pulled books out that we liked. We sat on the floor, we discussed what we liked about them, what I liked about them, what was my vision. And she took notes, and she was able to reproduce what was the best combination of the books that I found that I really liked. The look, the feel, the paper, the size, the print, the font, the readability, the headings, the call-out boxes on pages. All of those. We were able to refine my vision as the author because we had something in front of us that we could compare to. And it was really, really helpful for the graphic designer to be able to catch my vision for what I wanted the end product to look like. And ultimately, I hold that book up now, and I'm super proud of what she did to convey my vision for that book in a way that people can read it. And it's a really good read, but it also looks really, really good as well. With my latest book, Building a Strong Family, this is the literal truth, I was sitting in a plane in Indonesia. It's an internal flight, and I've got my headphones on, and I'm just, zoning out. And I look across the aisle, and there's a man reading a book, and I'm like, wow, I really like the boldness of that book. And so I grab my phone, and I turn the camera on, and I just, trying not to look like a real weirdo, and I swipe the screen to zoom the camera, and I get 3 or 4 shots of different internal pages as he's reading that book. And that's the truth. And then with when I recruited my graphic designer, he's a good friend of mine in Hamilton, used him for Building a Strong Family, I sent him the photos. I said, hey man, this is what I want. Let's try and build a template from this concept. And we talked about what I wanted and the colors and the mission of the book. And he went away, got color palettes and designs and layouts. And again, ultimately, that book has full color inside, and I'm really proud of the way it looks because it's bold, man. And you get the message. You definitely get the message on building a strong family. But that's literally where the idea for the graphics came from. And so, look, you can learn a lot from these, I hope, but there's no way that I could translate my vision into the design. And for those of you that love to do your own book layouts in Word or something else, like, God bless you, but it's not the same as a professional book. So if you're going for the highest level, then I urge you to use professionals. Look, in the same way, if I was trying to build a house, I love architecture, I love TV shows on architecture, I love Grand Designs and all those other shows. And I've got some ideas on how to build a house, but I'd never draw plans. I take a sketch to an architect and I say, here's my vision, here's the flow I'm looking for, here's the layout I want, but I need your help. Can you help translate my vision into something that's going to be functional, enjoyable for other people, and achieve the vision that I've got? And that's ultimately what someone needs to do. So look, I want to transition now, and in doing that, I probably want to get towards some of the objections that are going on in your head. So to transition that, I'll just tell a story about a friend of mine I worked with. I always remember when I was really getting into property investing, he was doing the same thing at the same time. We would swap notes. I remember buying a house from once at auction when he was out of town. I connected him with some other friends, and then he was really good encouragement for me in other ways. So we're good friends. And I remember at the time, he said to me, oh, look, my guys come around and mow the lawns and blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, hang on. Why don't you mow your own lawns, mate? It's not like it's big. And he said, well, why would I spend time doing something for $10 an hour when I can go out in property and earn $100 an hour? And it was like, wow. And the principle in that is this. Do what gives you the best return on your time and outsource what doesn't give you a return. Like a graphic designer is really talented at conveying imagery that convey a message, but they can't write your book for you. They can't pull together a narrative. They can't take a plot and get a twist and bring a character out in the way that we see in novels. They can't tell a life story, your life story. They can't do that. So you spend time doing what only you can do and empower other people to do what they can do. So I want to transition to apply this to your own life. And I want to say this to you. I can guarantee you my problem is probably the same for you. The problems that I have to overcome are probably the same problems you're going to have to overcome if you want to achieve your mission through the power of team. And you can apply this across a building project, across building a business, building a team inside your company. You can apply this to book writing, writing a seminar, programs, running a youth group. You can apply this right across the board. The first problem that I see is that I'm sometimes too close to the project to see the real problems. I'm too close to the project to see the real problems. I've got blind spots. I've got prejudice. I've got perspectives. And they're all helpful, but they also can work against me. In the book writing process, the editor gets outside of my paradigm to see what I can't see. The editor is professionally qualified and experienced to see things that I don't notice, to make observations. In the book Building a Strong Family, there was one section that I was especially passionate about, and she didn't get it. She argued, she presented evidence to support her argument that I really probably wasn't doing myself a favour. And in the end, I really had to wrestle with that. And in that case, I chose not to accept her advice, and she respectfully stepped away. There were other instances in the book where I was like, oh my goodness, you have pointed something out to me. I can't believe that I didn't see that. You know, in the book about family, she was saying, look, you need to connect here in this moment. You need to connect with those parents who are disconnected from their children, that don't have children in their intimate circle. And I just hadn't seen that. And as I reread that chapter, I just saw a new opportunity to bring a new, refreshing insight that perhaps I didn't have the experience for, but I could acknowledge and encourage and speak life into. So sometimes we're too close to see the problems in our project. And it's my problem, and I'm guessing it's yours. The second problem is there are some things that I'm crap at. I'm rubbish at. And you know, you have to accept that there's some things that you're not good at either. So for me, like I said to you, I can see a vision, I can imagine something, but I can't translate it on the screen to imagery, colours, and layout. And that's where I use a graphic designer. Like I said to you with the architecture, I can come up with a concept for a house. I can literally walk through a house in my mind. I can see where the lights are, the switches are, the furniture, the flow, the space, the ambience. I can see all of that in my imagination. But I've got no skills to translate that into technical plans. So there are some things I'm rubbish at. The other thing that I'm really rubbish at, I know this, is attention to detail. I've got to have someone close to me that drives me to finish and close things off with an attention to detail. When I'm in the middle, when I'm at the end of a book writing program, I'm obsessed. I'm working long, late into the night. I've read the book 25 times in the last 2 weeks to really iron out the creases. I've argued with the editor. I've gone backwards and forwards with the graphic designer, shifting and changing and perfecting things. I'm obsessed. I've got a deadline. I've got a vision that I'm trying to see. I'm good at that. I'm really good at that. But I can't do some of the finer things in the process. And so I get a team around me to help me. If you are trying to achieve something and you're not sure how to do it, reach out, ask for help. You know, there are friends that I've helped, I've coached people through this process. And you know, sometimes the best thing you can do is to get someone who's more experienced than you to take you through the process. My first book, it's exactly why I hired a book shepherd. I paid good money for her wisdom and her experience. And now that I'm on my 5th and 6th book, I'm using her experience because I've learned it for myself. But there was only one way that I could gain that. When I didn't have it, I had to buy it. Hey, look, the next problem, the final problem that's probably the same for me as it's the same for you, is that there are things that I can do if I have to. And this is actually a problem. I can build websites. I know how to use WordPress. I've built dozens of websites. I'm learning all the time. I'm looking at the source code and I'm seeing what other people are doing and I'm replicating it. So I do it. But that's a problem because it takes me hours. It takes me long nights sitting at my computer. It's a constant refinement process to update and to add. And in some ways I enjoy it, which is why I keep doing it. But that becomes a problem. The things that I can do and I choose to do but should not do, those are limiting factors for me. And I'm being really honest. I'm acknowledging that. Look, I love doing it, but if I wasn't doing it, I could be doing more profitable activity like writing the next 2 manuscripts that are sitting in front of me begging for my attention. So my problem, probably the same as your problem. I'm too close to see the problems in the project. There are some things I'm crap at, and there are some things I do that I should not do. I wonder how you could apply that to your situation. I want to also take a moment to address excuses that appear as objections and therefore become obstacles. Let me say that again. I bet already in your head you've made excuses, and they're appearing to me as objections to what I'm saying, but they will ultimately bounce back to you and become obstacles to your progress in your mission to get your message or your program, your project across the line. There are 2 key objections that I've written down, and that's all I've got time to talk about today. The first one is, I can't afford it. It's easy for you, Phil. You write the check and you pay the money. My last book cost me 10 grand to get printed and ready for distribution. That's a lot of money. I get that. Not everyone's got that. There's a lot of cost in there. I won't go into the details. You might say, I can't afford it. Well, when you say, I can't afford it, you shut your mind to possibility. If you want to take a lesson in that, go back to my first book, Becoming Money Wise. Kathy and I speak in that book how we never ever would say to our kids or allow our kids as children to say, I can't afford it. Instead, we need to ask, how could I afford it? It's a different way to look at things. It's a way to open up your mind to possibilities. It's a way to open up your mind to conversations with people more experienced than you that can invest in you, speak into you, and create opportunities for you. When you become negative, when you close down your mind because of your paradigm, you limit yourself. What if your book was going to transform the lives of 10,000 people, but they can't get the book because of your closed mind and your stink attitude? Look, that's a serious question that you might want to consider. You might be your biggest problem in getting your message out there. The next excuse that I use all the time, and that is, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I've got too many projects. Well, that's just simply a matter of priorities. We all get the same number of hours in the day, same number of hours in the week. There are some people that achieve 10 times what I achieve. Why? Well, they've got higher priorities driving them. They choose what they put their time into. They choose how to be productive. So it's not that you don't have enough time. It's just that you're not clear on your priorities. And I'm honestly speaking to myself here. Guys, I literally have 2 manuscripts and 2 web-based programs that I want to get out in this climate for people to be positively enriched by what I've got sitting in my Dropbox. And I'm saying to myself, man, I just don't have enough time. Well, it's not true. I need to reprioritize my time. I need to escalate what's truly important and get rid of what's not important. And only I can do that. I take advice in that. I get people to help me in that. And maybe you should too. So finally, I want to close with this challenge that I started with in the introduction, and that is this question. What could you build with the help of other people? What's your message? What's your mission? What's the assignment that you carry, only you carry, in this season? What could you build with the help of other people? I'm working with a team at the moment who are looking to create music. And we really sense and agree together that this is a season for them to be collaborative, not to be lone rangers, not to be sitting at home isolated in their cave trying to come up with a perfect song lyric, melody, chorus, and compilation. It's just not it. The word for them in this season is collaboration. And so I'm sharing that with you because I'm suggesting that the answer to your question, what can you build with the help of other people, will be found through reaching out, creating partnerships, joint ventures, friendships, associations. My second book, Kids and Money, that I talked about today, Kids and Money was a joint venture with a friend of mine, Amanda, who is another author, and we, over a tomato sandwich, you can literally read this in the introduction of the book, over a tomato sandwich at her kitchen table, me, her husband and her, we sat down and we came up with this idea. And it was the vision for that book, and we knew we couldn't achieve that vision without each other. So what can you achieve with the help of other people? I challenge you, I urge you to sit back from your own objections and your own preconceptions that are limiting you. Take a fresh piece of paper, write this question down. What can I build with the help of other people? Write down your mission, write down your ideas on the left-hand side of the page. And on the right-hand side of the page, just start making a list of people who might be able to help you. And one of those people on that list is going to say yes. Well, look, as I close out this interview with myself, what I promised at the beginning was to offer you something special at the end. And when I made that promise, I had a sense I knew what it was, but I didn't want to offer it. But I'm going to. So what I'm offering is a one-time offer. It's one-off, and I'm opening it up to anyone that wants to be part of it. And that is for a 30-minute chat where we try and remove the obstacles to you making progress. And look, if I get flooded with requests, I'll do this in a group setting via a video call. But if there's only a couple of you or one of you that really, really need help, then I'd be willing to give you 30 minutes, one-on-one, most likely over Skype or Facebook Messenger, where we can unlock what's inside of you so that you can access the power of team to get your message, your mission, or your assignment over the hurdles to the next stage. And when you do, you will find that you're able to flourish, you're able to fly to heights you've never flown to, you'll be able to touch more people's lives in a positive way, and you'll be truly enriched, not by the number of books you've sold, but by the stories in other people's lives that you've contributed to. That's my hope for me, and now it's my hope for you. So I'm leaving that invitation there. You can do what you like with it. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today, Coffee with Phil. Please subscribe. Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you subscribe so you get the latest ones in your podcast channel. Also on the website, philstrong.com, you can subscribe to my broadcast. It's just a way that I'm going to be sending out other information, confirmation, announcements, new products. And also I've got a project I'm working on where I need some help. And so I'd really love for you to sign up for that broadcast at philstrong.com so that you can be one of the first ones to help me with that project. So follow me on social. Thanks for being with me. Make sure you live a life of purpose on purpose. I'm Phil Strong, and thanks for being with me.